Hello and welcome, this is Mercenary and we're back with some more BattleTech. As I mentioned in a previous video, I record quite a bit ahead of time. What that means is that when I record more than one video in a recording session. And over time, I build up quite a bit of a backlog. So when you see a video post, there's quite a bit of a gap in between where I am at that current moment in the gameplay and when you actually see where I am at that current moment in the gameplay. I do this so that if things happen in my life, for example, I get sick and I can't record for a period of time, I don't run out of videos. They keep going up consistently. The downside of that is I am not really as up to date with current events. So the day that I'm recording this is the day that the update for BattleTech posted. So for you guys, it's been around for a little while, but for me, it's brand new. With that being said, in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the changes to BattleTech with this update and adjusting to it. I don't know if I'm going to get into any combat in this video. I'm not sure how long it's going to take to get to those things. Now, one thing I have noticed right away is it takes a lot less time to jump around to the various menus. Previously, the way the game was, there was quite a bit of delay in between different actions. So if I click on my Shadow Hawk here and I hit refit, there was a pretty significant load time to do that. It still seems like there is a load time, but it's maybe not quite as long, and there also isn't the hitching and delays in between going from one thing to another. So the one thing that I really need to pay attention to when I'm looking at these different mechs is now we actually have numbers for things, but also we had a rebalancing of the heat generation of a lot of weapons. So we actually get the numbers for heat generation, something that I had complained about in the past, not having the numbers for. Now we get those numbers. Whenever you hover over any of these bars, you actually get the numbers. You don't have to do the math in your head or calculate out the math to figure out what it is. We see right here, firepower, max damage 90, and then max stability damage 13. It's all calculated out for me, so that's pretty nice to see. We actually get distances for movement. We actually have melee combat damage, something that you only saw when you were in a combat mission. So you couldn't really easily compare the damage values between different mechs. And we see here where that damage comes from. So we see that you have a base damage value based off of your tonnage, but you also have a chassis quirk, which is the reason why the Shadowhawk is better than some other mechs at its same weight class. So it's good to have these numbers, but the big one for me is heat efficiency and being able to design my mech to be heat efficient. But we can see here that with the rebalancing of heat generation, this mech is actually probably quite a bit more heat efficient than it used to be. It can sink 36 heat, and all of its weapons being fired, an Alpha Strike, is only going to generate 32 heat. Now, we do have the jump jets to consider, which is going to generate another 10 heat. So only by jumping and firing all weapons are we really generating heat, and we're not generating that much. So I could keep it as is, or I could redesign the mech based off of these changes. For now, I don't think I'm going to mess with this too much, because I'm not sure if I could really push the Shadowhawk in any particular direction without pretty massive changes. But some of my other mechs, this may be a little bit more important. Now, I didn't need to do the repair in that screen. I just did it so that we could look at some of the things. Now, you can also see these things outside of the actual refit screen. So if we click on my Battlemaster, I can get the heat efficiency numbers right now. Now, one thing that we'll note is the bar isn't entirely full like it used to be. But we do see heat sinking is 66, Alpha Strike is 96. Now, one of the things that is going to hurt me with the Battlemaster is a lot of weapons had their heat generation reduced. Medium lasers are the one thing that had their heat generation increased. It's a slight increase, but for the Battlemaster having a lot of medium lasers, it's going to affect it more heavily. Another thing that had its heat generation increased is small laser, but a lot of the other weapons in the game had their heat generation reduced. This includes SRMs, LRMs, a lot of the autocannons. and so on. And honestly, I think those are good changes. I feel like most of the weapons in the game were, well, most of the heat generation in general was a little too on the high end. I had complained about that in the beta, and I continue to complain about that once the game launched. So it's good to see that heat generation get turned down a little bit. So I feel like we are definitely probably going to have to address the Battlemaster. Let's see where our other mechs are at the moment. So our Yager mech should be actually better because outside of those couple medium lasers, most of the weapons should be now more heat efficient than they were in the past. So I'm not sure we really have to worry about the Yager mech too much. Let's look at that though. We have heat sinking and we have alpha strike. Now keep in mind, we're not actually going to be alpha striking in a lot of cases. Let's see what a medium laser does now for heat generation. So we're looking at 12 heat as opposed to the 10 that it was before. So if we take away 24 heat from this number, that's going to be the number that we get from the autocannon 5 and the other M15s firing. So all being told, we would be generating less heat than we would sink. So that's fine. I think we're pretty good with the Yager mech. We don't really need to change it. It's not going to be that common that we're firing the medium lasers, so we're fine. The Highlander, we generate 71 heat with an alpha strike, and we sink 66. We do have the 6 heat to worry about with the jump jets, but we don't really move around all that much with the Highlander. Usually we're pretty stationary. It's not that common that I'm using the jump jets, although there may be times where that is the case. But with this, an alpha strike, it's not that big of a difference, only a difference of 5. I could deal with that. And again, we're not always going to be using all of our weapons with the Highlander in particular. Only when the range is close do we really do that. So on most turns, we'd be just fine. It's really the Battlemaster that's the problem. And as we saw with the Shadowhawk's not too bad either. Now, if we are going to get into a battle in the near future, we would be using probably the Blitzhawk or this other, the Griffin, to replace it. Now, one of the things, big change, is the large laser. It used to generate a whole heck of a lot of heat. Now it only generates 18. The PPC is another one that had pretty massive swings in heat generation. So large laser is going to be a little bit more viable of a weapon from the heat standpoint. It's something that you oftentimes would shy away from using the large laser, and I think these balance changes are going to make it so that it's just not this small group of weapons that are viable anymore. You probably be able to stretch and get a lot more variety and still have it be a viable choice. So honestly, the Griffin here may be a good one for us to modify now that the large laser is a little bit more viable. As far as heat generation, we may be able to swing this thing to be a pretty heat efficient mech. I mean, where it's standing right now, it can sink exactly how much its alpha strike is. The only thing that would be really a modifying factor would be the jump jets. So in that regard, we could do something with this. But let's start with the Battlemaster. That's the big one. That's the one that we're going to really need to change. Let's do some refitting. Now, of course, if we refit the Griffin, it won't be available for us, so we probably don't have the time to do that. But who knows, maybe the Griffin or the Shadowhawk, if we decide to modify it, that may be our new scout mech. So that might be a consideration we look at. I might look at that Shadowhawk that has more energy weapon slots and see what we can do with it. So right out the gate, something that occurs to me as probably a good idea with our heat generation where it is, we're a good 30 above our heat sinking potential, and that's really not good, especially as we are firing a lot of our weapons commonly, and we are also jumping around often as well, which is going to generate 8 heat. I believe jump jets were reduced in their heat generation as well, along with a lot of the other weapon systems. So, with that being said, that 30 gap I think is pretty significant. We do have the heat bank, which gives us an extra overheat threshold, which we do see on this. So we see that the shutdown is at 110. It doesn't tell you where you're starting to take damage at. Maybe they would add that in the future. But still, the shutdown number, it gives you something to base it off of. I still think that the heat bank really doesn't do you too many favors. it does help a little bit, but when we're generating well more heat than we're sinking, I think that becomes a problem to the point that I'm thinking about just taking the heat bank out. I think the heat bank does a little bit more for you when the margin is closer. It gives you just a little bit more turns that you can continue to fire all of your weapons. But with here, we're generating 30 heat. That's well over the 10 that we're getting with this max overheat threshold. So I think we're just going to remove that now. Obviously, that dips our heat efficiency down quite a bit, but that, again, this is misleading. It's only giving you a little bit of overheat threshold. It's not really helping your heat efficiency. So, again, I really wish they would modify that to be a little bit more telling of what it's doing with your heat efficiency. Let's skip over the equipment. I think we may have to strip off a medium laser to make this thing viable. What I may do is slot in a large laser. Large lasers don't generate all that much more heat than a medium laser now. So that we might be able to keep the damage levels that we have with not too much work. Granted, large lasers are a lot more tonnage, so I might not be able to squeeze it in from that standpoint. We'd still probably lose damage efficiency because 2 tons gives you 50 damage, whereas 5 tons gives you 40. And even with a damage upgrade, that's still not going to be in our favor from a tonnage efficiency. All right, so I want to put on a heatsink. And as I was saying, I think I'm going to end up stripping out one medium laser. And I'll do that from the torso section, I think. We'll strip that out, because we already have other weapon systems in this left torso. That's going to lower our heat generation, and then we could put in another heatsink, and then it's only a difference of 12, which is not too bad. We'd also be jump jetting around a lot, so really we're generating about 20 heat a turn. Well, it's a heck of a lot better than 38 a turn, so I think we can manage that, and we can turn off some weapon systems if we need to. So we're going to be losing a little bit of damage with this, but we're just going to have to make do. I'm going to go ahead and put in another heatsink here to give us that little bit of extra more heat efficiency, so we get up to that, margin of 12, another 8, so 20 if we use our jump jets. That's not too bad. I think we can manage that. So that's going to be our change. Now, making this change, it's going to take time. May only take 1 day. We'll see. If it's instant, then great. If it's not, that's fine too. We do have backup mechs in this case, so we'll be all right. All right. I think that's all the changes I want to make. Now, granted, I could have waited to do that until afterwards. The real decision I have to make is, do I want to do a contract here and get a little bit of money, or do I just want to travel and do our priority mission? So let's take a look at where we're at as far as what we can do. So our priority mission is only 15 days away, which isn't too far. And it's going to give me 1.4 million. And of course, that's going to be the actual money I get, not this negotiation stuff that we face. Here, now I think difficulty and a lot of other things, optimization, a whole bunch of things have been changed with this game. So we're not really sure what we're going to see with some of these contracts. There's probably going to be changes with that. We may want to start on an easier level and get a kind of feeling for where that is. Considering that we're polar, maybe I should have kept the Battlemaster around. I could always revert those changes and make them not happen, but I've ripped systems out at this point, so those happen instantly. So at this point, the Battlemaster's not going to be ready for duty no matter what we do. All right, so that pays not bad. And as a matter of fact, this is the only contract in system. I didn't pay attention that these are travel missions. So this would be the only one we could do. I think we should do this one to test where the difficulty is at and everything like that. So this is going to be the contract we more than likely take. What is it? It's a battle mission. Again, we're a polar environment, so heat's not going to be as big of an issue. Satellite surveillance pictures show that a heavy lance was inserted onto the plant's surface by a Directorate dropship. Currently, we believe they're securing their LZ, preparing for whatever operation they have planned. Before they finish securing the area, we'd like you to interrupt them. They're heavily armed, so expect some resistance. Okay. So, with that, what mechs would we be taking into this combat? Obviously, if I do any modifications, it wouldn't be ready in time. So the Highlander is going to go, the Jagermech's going to go, and then we have a choice with our scout of what we're going to do with that. So it could either be the Griffin 1S, which would be perfectly viable. Where are we at with damage? 94, which sounds like it's slightly better than this. Granted, I don't know. Didn't that one say 90 when I looked at it? That can't be right, though. It has to be higher than that. I mean, the math in my head should be better than that. We have 94 here, but we do have range with that large laser. And we have max damage 66. That can't be right. You have 2 medium lasers. Those do 50 right there. This calculation is wrong. All right, well, the update just came out and it's already wrong. So don't pay attention to the max damage numbers because they're not accurate. Maybe missiles aren't being calculated properly because this is saying 66. That would be only one missile landing because you have the 2 medium lasers. That's 100. Yeah, it's only calculating one missile landing. So for whatever reason, they haven't added in the multiplication here. They've just added in the damage. So they do need to do that at some point. But yeah, that should be 48 times 2. Well, really 40 times 2. So you're adding on another 80 onto this to get your actual damage number. So yeah, very much not accurate. And I'm going to assume that over here, they did the same problem with the LRM-5. They only did the +4, which is probably why it comes out as 94. So for max damage, you should add on another 16 on top of that to get your actual number. So this would be 110, and this would be, what did we say, like 140 something? So yeah, that's where we should be at with that one. So the Blitzhawk is definitely more damage, but we are trading range to get that. As far as armor goes, we have, and I don't know if this is being calculated correctly, 840. I think that's right. And then the Griffin, we haven't modified, so it's only going to be at 760. I think we'll go ahead with the Blitzhawk, unless we want to run the Blitzhawk with my pilot. We could run Behemoth in this Jagerback. To try it out. We've never used this mech before, and it'd be kind of cool to see it in action. So yeah, I think let me do that. Maybe I'll put my pilot in the Blitzhawk here, and we'll go with that as our other setup. So I think that's going to be our lance for now. So it's going to be the Jagermech, the Highlander, the Jagerback, and the Blitzhawk. Decker's hurt, so he's out of action. I could do a couple other things here as well, but let's go ahead and do the contract. Now, one thing I do want to check really quick before I go anywhere. I don't know if I ever checked the store here. Just want to double check. So we have an AC2. I'm not getting the pop-up for some reason. Okay, well that's another thing that apparently is broken. The pop-ups aren't coming up. Because there used to be a pop-up there, and you could just quick see what the difference between the different weapons are. Well, I'm not getting that now. Okay. I don't really see anything outside this medium laser that gives us some accuracy. We have a PPC that gives us +5 damage, but I think I have a couple of those already. So unless it's really cheap, I'm not going to go for it. I mean, I could confirm that by going to sell. But I haven't really been using PPCs all that often. Oh, here we have a bit of a hitch. So maybe the menus are still a little slow. But one thing they did add in a button to go to the store when you're in the mech bay. We want to go to weapons. Although, looking at chassis, I may want to start selling those if I'm tight on money. But yeah, we should have, let's do just energy weapons so we find these things quicker. Yeah, we have one PPC that has +5 damage. You know what? I'll buy the other one. Hopefully it goes to the buy screen sometime. Now that PPCs are a little bit more viable, I'll buy both of them. There's 2 of them here.
New weapon systems.
I really wish they would add in a bulk buy option at some point. All right. That's enough of that. Let's go to our contract and accept this contract. Probably not going to get that far into the combat, but let's go ahead and negotiate. I am curious to see how loading times are going with the current game. I guess I'll go 50-50 on this one. Oh, did they change the icon? Or am I just not remembering what this icon looked like? Oh well, let's go ahead and hit accept. But I am curious to see what the load times are like, because that was another problem with this game, is the load times were pretty significant. Okay, so we have some mechs missing because they are doing repairs. So one thing that I could do, as I was mentioning, I believe this is the Blitzhawk here. I could do the Blitzhawk, and then I could do the Yager back and have Behemoth pilot. The other way I could do this is I could have Medusa. We'd have to level him up because we haven't used his experience in a long time, but we could have him do the sensor locking and stuff for us, which honestly may be valuable to have sensor lock, especially, well, 3.5 I think we may be able to handle, but if I didn't want to use my pilot, I could use Medusa to give me that flexibility of having a sensor lock. Here, we don't have the sensor lock, but we have a couple mechs that are going to get up close and personal, so it may not really matter. All right, yeah, I think I'm going to go with this setup here. We haven't used Behemoth in a while, though, so maybe I should back up here and just check to see if we have experience to use. Let's do that real quick, especially as the menus do load in here a little bit faster.
Standing by.
Okay, well, she doesn't have any experience to use, but I do, so it's still good to come in here. At this point, I think I'm just going to continue to max out the gunnery skill, so we'll confirm that.
Training confirmed, Commander.
Where are we on Jalopy? 4,500. I'll save those points for now.
I hear ya.
Which is at 7,200. We're still saving, I think, for the last point of tactics there. All right. Well, we're ready to go then. Let's go back and get that contract. So that one, negotiate, 50-50 again. All right, we are going to have to redo the setup here, so that goes there. We're going to grab Blitzhawk. Now, I could do a heavier setup if I wanted to. I will point out, the downside of doing this setup is that the Blitzhawk is going to be acting as a medium, not as a light like what we've had with Decker. The problem is I don't know if Medusa has enough experience to get the ability to get that. I'm not sure if I'm going to worry about it, though. I'm torn on that. I'm not sure how much experience Medusa has. I'm not sure if he could get that ability. I think we'll just run with this. All right, let's deploy. All right, we're ready to go. Honestly, the loading time seemed about the same. Maybe slightly quicker. I'll know for sure when I do the editing, because I edit out all that loading screen crap so you guys don't have to see it. Usually that edits out about a couple minutes per... if I do a whole battle in a video, that usually edits out a couple minutes with the load in, load out kind of stuff getting edited out. This is where the satellite pictures showed the hostile lands touching down. Move up and make contact. Let's see what we're dealing with. Expect serious resistance. Oliviera out. Okay. Go ahead and put Jalopy in the woods here. It looks like they're fairly close, so honestly, I don't know if putting Jalopy there is the best move. We could always back up, though, if it comes down to it.
Heading out.
Would we benefit from jumping up here and maybe fighting from up on top of this peak? Oh, I'm gonna go for it.
Time to fly.
It sounds fun, so we'll brace up. Okay, we'll get the other Yager mech in here.
Move order received.
I should say Yager back, because I have changed its name. I've never really taken too close of a look. Let's see them side by side. So there's the big AC-20 cannon versus the AC-5 that's on the other one. Okay, I don't think jumping is what we're going to do. What do we see out there? A vehicle. All right, we don't have enough info on it because Behemoth isn't that great of a scout. I think I'll be all right to run into the forest here. we'll be able to take more advantage of my pilot's good, strong evasion. Because this is the first day of the patch, that we may see some hitches here and there. I mean, the update is supposed to fix a lot of the bugs that have existed in the game and some of the performance issues, but there may be new issues with any update, so we have to give them a little bit of slack on that. All right, let's see if we have more intel here. Unfortunately, I think the pilots that are seeing this stuff just don't have the tactics. That would be more Jalopy, and mostly Glitch, I think, has the best tactics of our group right now. I'm going to reserve. They don't have vision.
Standing by.
So I'm not sure if this mech is already gone or not. I don't think any of the enemy is gone. I guess we'll find out. Yeah, no, it's going to be either a heavy or an assault. I'm going to guess a heavy. Looks like we have a lot of things on the heavy scale, because it's taking quite a bit of time for the enemy to get through their turn here. So this is a 60-ton mech. Then we have an 80-ton vehicle. That could be a demolisher. We've seen demolishers are at 80 tons in the past. All right, well, now we have to go here.
What can I do for you?
So we can jump up on the ridge and get vision. Let's see what else we can do, though, here. I want to see if we can get vision of more things. Now, I have to keep in mind, this hasn't gone yet. So maybe Glitch's move is not necessarily the worst. We wouldn't be able to split up our firepower as much, would be my main concern. But if I go with my pilot, if this is a demolisher, I'd eat those shots because we're too close range. I'd prefer to wait for that one to go. The same thing would be true about Behemoth. If we move now, I probably wouldn't be able to get vision. Well, I say that. We could get vision over here. Well, in that case, I think we're better off. So we'll just do a move. I'll face like that to put our back towards the rock. And then I'll use Vigilance.
Moving out.
Which will benefit us in a number of ways. Okay, so it's a quick draw. Go ahead and use Vigilance. Okay. Don't have any details on that. I don't know how good our shots are going to be, so I may turn off the AC-20 here and just fire some medium lasers. We won't run hot with that. I could waste a precision strike here. I don't think it's worth it. This is just one of those situations without that scouting. Oh wow, we hit all of those despite their kind of not great probability. Well, unfortunately, this guy still hasn't gone for me. So, still not really certain what to do here. I could use Vigilance to try and reduce the damage. I'm just a little concerned we're going to eat a lot of damage here. But the best move for me to do is to jump over here. I get a lot of evasion, so that's not too bad. And then I'll use Vigilance just to try and protect myself in case it is something really scary, like a Demolisher, which it very well may be. It is a Demolisher. That's exactly what I was afraid of. Well, we'll reduce the damage if it does land. Go ahead and open up with what we've got. Not likely going to get a kill because these guys have full armor. We'll do a little bit of damage. We have another vehicle up here. Ah, because it only fired one. It had that breaching shot ability, and of course it hit me with the massive evasion I built up. Well, I was trying to avoid that, but you know, there's only so much you can do. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump up here. We'll be in the wood, so we'll be okay as far as that goes. And maybe an angle like that. And I'll split my fire here. In this case, I think we'll go your A and your B, and B will be the LRM-20. The Gauss Rifle has a pretty good chance to hit here. I didn't see which variant of the quick draw is, and I don't memorize all of the variants, so I'm not sure with 5A which one that is, if that's the standard or not. I'll know once I look at it. That's not the standard variant. The standard variant has an LRM-10, so I think this one's up armored from what the normal one is, but I'm not positive on that. Okay, now it's going to be Jalape's turn. In this case, we're going to do multi-target again. You're going to be A, you're going to be B, and B is going to be the LRMs. We're going to want to do as much damage to the Demolisher as possible, maybe killing it. But we also want to break through this guy's guard if we can.
I copy.
So firing one weapon's ideal. Unfortunately, we missed. Unlike that AC-20 firing at full evasion. There we go, we got the kill. Maybe a little overkill, but I wanted to ensure it.
Reporting. One less vehicle.
I do want to see where my mech is as far as... Now, I ate through all my armor and did a little bit of internal structure damage, so unfortunately our Blitzhawk is going to be not available for the next battle, but that's okay. There's no more contracts on this system anyway. Okay, at the moment, I know the enemy can see me, but I can't really do anything about that, so I think we're just going to reserve. Okay.
What's up, boss?
Now for Behemoth. Our accuracy is going to be a lot better. And we do have incentives to move up with Behemoth and get close. So I'll go ahead and do that. If the quick draw punched me, I don't know if it would be necessarily the end of the world. The 90% chance to hit with everything. I could use Vigilance. I don't know if we necessarily need it, but it could be a good idea. Especially we're putting the... let's go ahead and use that. We are putting this guy up front, and it'd be nice to have it. So we'll go ahead and fire.
Confirmed.
Okay, hitting with everything again. Quick draws can't take too much more of that. Alright, so we have some kind of vehicle up here. That could be a Demolisher. This is definitely, well, it's not definitely, but very likely a Demolisher. So I feel like I have to move out of this. Otherwise, I'm going to eat maybe a possible Demolisher shot. So I'll jump to here. I don't have Vigilance or any guard, so it's going to be kind of important that I build up as much evasion as I can. This is a bit of a risk. I might get my leg blown off if I take too much damage to that leg, if they're able to focus it. But I'm hoping I stay out of range of this Demolisher. Maybe I'm not doing that. Alright, we'll fire away.
All weapons committed.
Fortunately, we're not going to do enough to stop that quick draw from getting vision. They did also modify how stability works. So you're not going to be knocking down heavier mechs as commonly.
Orders.
Alright, at this point, I don't have that strong of a move with Jalopy. I am tempted to attack the quick draw. But honestly, the better move here is let the quick draw go and then respond to it. If it fires, well, now it's a more vulnerable target to our return. So go ahead and reserve. I expect they're going to attack the Shadowhawk here. So hopefully we can endure that. Oh no, they're going to go after the Yager back. Maybe they don't have vision of me. It's possible.
I'm picking up a new sensor trace.
Yeah, actually that is quite possible. Okay, they have reinforcements. Not too surprised with that. They are going in for a punch, but they missed, which is amazing for me. Okay. So this is a Demolisher. Yeah. Being in the buildings like that, it might take a little while for it to get to me. So, did break my guard though. That's the downside of that punch, which is probably why the enemy did it. All right. Well, things haven't really changed too much, and I don't expect that we're gonna gain vision of much else. So,
Waiting for orders.
Now is just the time to open up here. I'll go ahead and fire everything. I don't see a reason why not. Fortunately, we missed with our big damage. Well, one of our big damage. But the guy doesn't have guard anymore, so we are doing full damage. No need to split it up as much. Maybe we should have waited until after Jalape's shot. In this case, we are benefited in moving up a little bit to get that direct line of sight. We can fire everything with that, so...
On my way.
It does make us more vulnerable for return fire next turn, but we're going to be doing a lot of damage here. We may be able to... I don't know if it would take them out, but... I think we'll knock him down at this point. Maybe. Ugh. Full bar of knockdown, and it's not going down. Alright, so... I think the best move for me is to attack and retreat. And my mech may be able to finish the quick draw, so we'll go with that.
All weapons committed.
Okay, well,
Enemy mech. Critical damage detected.
there's going to be the knockdown. And we took out the left and right torso there. Fortunately, we didn't get a kill. Well, if I jump there, I don't think anybody's going to have vision of me, and I do stick to a woods, so I'm going to go with that.
Engaging jump jets.
Okay. At this point, you know, we could eat Demolisher shots, so I think we should move with the Yager back.
Orders.
Or at the very least, stand still and just fire at this guy so we get our guard up. Doesn't look like I can establish a line of sight of anyone else unless I move here. The problem with doing that is I do allow this guy to act before I get to do much. I'm tempted just to reserve, but I'm just, you know, I feel like that vehicle is going to get the line of sight it needs of me, and it's going to hit me with 2 Demolisher shots that aren't going to get really reduced. So, it makes me want to get that guard up, and the way I do that is by sitting still. But if I do that, I will be wasting the turn of the Jagerbeck. Let's see how far away from death this guy is.
Yes, Commander.
Hard to say. We could stomp on him. In theory, we're not moving, so it should give us our guard, but I don't know how consistent that is. I've seen that fail before. I'll try it. We'll see what happens. Go ahead and go for this stomp here. And in theory, I should get my guard up because I haven't moved. Let's see if that worked. Nope, it didn't. Alright, well, that was an experiment that failed. We'll probably get a decent amount of damage on our mech here. And I don't know how good the Jagerback is actually at doing melee damage. Clearly, not very, because it only did 60 there. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and put a cut in the video here. I hope you guys have enjoyed. This is Mouse Gunner, signing out.